Hey, what's going on? It's Joey Myers from the Hitting Performance Lab. And in this video, we're going to go over the Addison Russell 2016 Game 6 World Series Grand Slam. We're going to do a little hitting analysis here. What I wanted to start off with is just to talk about where Addison Russell is when it comes to Fangraphs, and particularly looking at his ground ball, line drive, fly ball percentages, and his home run to fly ball ratios. In 2015, Addison Russell hit about 13 homers, and this year in 2016 hit 21. So he had a little spike in his power his second year in the big leagues with the Cubs. And what you'll notice here, if we look at his line drive percentage, just look at the averages of the 2 years, and you'll see that his line drive percentage is 19.8%, which is actually slightly below league average. We look at his ground ball percentage, 41.2, which is was just below average according to league average, which is 44%, and his fly ball percentage, 39.1%, is slightly above average than league average, which is 36%. But the big one, I think, is his home run to fly ball ratio, which you can see a definite difference between 2015 and 16. Looking at his average, though, 12.1%, the league average is 9.5%. If we look at Addison Russell's height and weight, you can see here that he's 6 foot, 195 pounds. So let's take a look at the video. We can see by his Fangraph numbers that looks like he's trying to get the ball in the air a little bit more. So what I have here are a few different lines. One, the curved path, or what looks like a Nike Swoosh sign, is the barrel path. We have the pitch plane, which is this line down here, and we have the batted ball launch angle path, that is this line right here. So I mentioned the Nike Swoosh barrel path, and I love the slow motion videos that they're playing during the World Series, because we get this 10,000 frame per second cool slow-mo vid, so we can really see a lot that's going on in this video, plus it's a close-up. Nike Swoosh barrel path. Also, what you can see is the pitch plane, which is if you drew a straight line, imaginary line from the pitcher's release point down to the catcher's glove, is slightly down here. This is actually on a 91 mile per hour fastball, but you can see his barrel dropping slightly below, and it depends on where you put the lines, but if you're looking at the sweet spot, you can see the sweet spot's a lot closer to the plane of the pitch here as the barrel starts to come up and meet the plane of the pitch barrel path. And I want you to check out his top hand. We talk about top hand finger pressure, so bottom 3 fingers, pinky, ring, and middle finger. And what you're going to see in his grip of his top hand is you're going to see a more lax index, slightly with the middle, but the middle's tightening down, but you can see really tight down below from the bottom up. You can see the pinky, the ring finger, and some of the ring finger nice and tight on the handle. And you're going to see, looking at the barrel, what I like to teach is barrel chasing the ball. So after impact, anything that happens after impact, we can look at studies and research, and that it really doesn't matter what the barrel does after impact, but it really does. And what we want to see is we want to see the barrel chasing the ball. And for a big reason, because there's a lot of young hitters out there that are taught to keep this back arm bent all the way through past impact and into the follow through. So what we see is a lot of players are pulling off the ball, the barrel ends up on plane and then pulling off the plane at the last second. Maybe we don't need to do anything past impact with the barrel. It's not really going to add to probably ball exit speed or anything like that, but what it's going to do, and looking at Addison Russell's extension of both arms past post impact, you can see both arms get extended in this what some call power V position, although some teach this to get to impact like this, which I don't teach. But we want to definitely get to this post impact position, seeing the barrel chase the ball, because if a hitter is off timing on an off speed pitch or a breaker, we want to have extra barrel on plane of the pitch just in case the hitter's out in front. So when the barrel chases the ball, we have more barrel on plane or matching plane or as close to plane as we can. Instead of pulling off the ball super early, keeping this back arm bent the whole time, we can still be able to match those off speed and breaking stuff. Now this particular swing, or this batted ball, was 108 miles an hour ball exit speed according to Statcast, with a 23-degree launch angle, and it traveled about 434 feet. Now what I want to do is I want to take a look at the pitcher's view and talk about a few things, and we'll end the video. I wanted to hit a couple points really quickly before we end this video here. The first one is that we see somewhat of a hunched posture as Addison Russell goes into his float. You can see the arching of his upper back a little bit. Not quite like a Hunter Pence, but we see some arching there. The other thing is he uses somewhat of between a medium to high leg kick. Maybe not quite as high as Donaldson or Batista, more like maybe a Mike Trout, maybe in between those two. But what we're going to see is we're going to see him start that almost when the pitcher breaks his hands. You're going to see him picking up his front foot when the pitcher breaks his hands. He's going to pick that up and he's going to float for a little bit. Or like what Matt Noakes calls a ride and stride. So the ride before the stride, I call it the float before the fall. So you see this float action. The other thing that he's floating is the barrel up. A lot of times I see with young hitters is that at this point here, their barrel is almost flat behind them. And this shifts the center of gravity of the bat behind, and we oftentimes see maybe a handful of hitting flaws that tend to poke their head out when we see that. So we want to see what I call the flashlight. And if we had a chest view, a better chest view than what we just saw, where we could see his whole body, you're going to see what I call the knob is the flashlight. And we have the flashlight, it's going to be shining at the catcher's feet. As opposed to if the bat is flat, we're going to see the flashlight. A lot of times the hitter will be wrapping the bat and we'll see the flashlight shining in the umpire or the catcher's eyes or over the catcher's head. So we see Addison, as he picks his foot up, he kind of floats the barrel up or takes the flashlight and points it down at the catcher's feet. Also, at his back foot and back leg alignment, we've been talking a lot about this in a couple videos, and what you can see is this kind of sideways where the heel gets in front of the toe or whatever. He's hitting this to straightaway center field. And what you really want to look at, it's kind of hard to see here where the foot is or the leg. But you can see in this here, before he takes his step, where the back foot's pointing, the knee, the back hip. And what we want to make sure, we don't want to necessarily focus on the back foot and what position it needs to be in, but we need to make sure that we're getting the hips or the belt buckle perpendicular to impact and not the pitcher. So we need to hit the pitch according to the pitch location, not always taking our belt buckle and pointing it out for a righty towards a shortstop or a lefty towards a second baseman. We need to let our rotation or the pitch location dictate where we get our hitter's hips to go. But you can see that foot is sideways where he's hitting it. And we see this same thing on Perez in game 2, I believe, when he hit the 2 homers. He hit one to left center and one to left. And we saw his back foot actually pointing even more sideways than what Addison Russell's doing here. The last thing I wanted to go over is knee bend at landing. So we see this athletic position of at landing right here. So we see this kind of sinking down. Now this is a fastball, so we see a little less bend than we'd see, say, on an off speed or a breaker. You're going to see him bend more on those kind of pitches. But we can see the knee bend. So at landing, we see good knee bend in the front knee, and then we see that back knee starting to bend, and that's going to get more bent where the front leg straightens. Addison Russell straightens his. So that is the Addison Russell hitting analysis of the World Series Game 6 2016 Grand Slam that he hit. So make sure that we're swinging smarter by moving better. And before I let you go,
the Hitting Performance Lab wants to know, did you know that reducing ground balls and swing and miss strikeouts has less to do with hand path and more to do with knee action? Have you ever heard, finish taller? To drive the ball, you have to uppercut. Well, we created a free video revealing the results of a scientific study that showed a reduction in ground balls of 27% and an increase in productive balls in the air of 24% over 200 swings without messing with hand path. Click here now to get the video while it's still free.